Nick, have you heard?
Probably.
But seriously, I have some really big news.
Please tell me this big news that I probably already know.
Okay, you know of the music licensing site MusicBed, right?
Who doesn't know about MusicBed? They're the best place for wedding videographers to get licensed music. They have amazing artists like Chapters, Tony Anderson, Delight in the Heat, as well as hundreds of other curated artists, bands, and composers. I've been using the MusicBed since I started wedding filmmaking in 2012.
Yeah, their subscription service was a life changer for me, especially since all of their subscription music is pre-cleared for every social media platform, Facebook, Instagram, Love Stories TV, and my personal favorite, YouTube, all pre-cleared.
Dude, it's so good. But again, what's this big news that I probably already know about?
They want to sponsor our podcast.
Yeah, I know that. I was a part of the emails.
Can you at least act a little surprised?
Oh, my bad. Hang on. Seriously? They want to pay us to talk about their baller music service? A service that we both have loved and used for years? Sold. I'm in. Sign me up.
We know the time suck that is searching for the perfect song for your wedding film. MusicBed has spent years collaborating with artists, bands, and composers to make it easier than ever for anyone to find the right song for their video.
And if you're interested in a free month of a MusicBed wedding subscription...
Hold up, a free month?
Yeah, a free month of a MusicBed wedding subscription service. Head over to howtofilmweddings.com/musicbed. When you sign up, use the promo code HTFW and you will get your first month for free.
Dude, let's do this.
Are we good?
I'm good.
Okay, let's go. Well, thank you so much.
I think Josh meowed. We're never going to get through this.
Hello and welcome to the How to Film Weddings podcast. My name is Nick Miller and I'm joined by John. John.
It's John. I'm right here. I'm doing really good. And I'm really pumped because we got to interview somebody that is one of my favorites.
Yeah, we just interviewed Josh Hilton of A Little Long Distance, and their work is phenomenal. He's really found his niche, found his groove in editing in a way that is just different than anyone else, but it's really emotional and impactful and sentimental. It's so amazing. You're definitely going to want to check it out. He drops, advice on, finding your niche, where to find some inspiration. He even gives us some of his best editing tips kind of towards the end. Anyway, it's a great episode that you'll definitely want to check out. So we're just going to go ahead and jump into this episode with Josh from A Little Long Distance. Well, Josh, thank you so much for joining us on the podcast. How are you doing?
Dude, I'm doing great, guys. Thanks for having me on.
Oh, that is so good.
Yeah.
For those of you listening that don't know, Josh Hilton runs A Little Long Distance. They're based in Colorado.
Yes.
To kind of get things going, Josh, for maybe people that don't know much about you, why don't you just kind of tell us who you are, where you're located, how long you've been shooting, your family life and all that kind of stuff, things that are important to you.
Yeah, absolutely. So my wife and I, Jess, we got married about 6 years ago, and shortly after we started A Little Long Distance, I was doing wedding videos for about a year before that with a friend from college. And yeah, we got married, kind of stumbled into it after that. Fast forward, we've been living in Nashville up until about 4 or 5 months ago. Just moved out to Colorado.
Nice.
It's been great. We have 2 kids, Palmer, almost 3 years old, and Shepherd, 10 months old, and our dog, Bro.
Bro?
His name is Bro. B-R-O. Bro.
Bro.
Bro?
That's a great name.
Bro? Question mark?
That's awesome.
Yeah, so we've pretty much just only done wedding photo and video for the last 5 or 6 years. Pretty much nothing else besides that. So we've been at the grind. It's been awesome. Still love it. Feel more passionate than ever about it.
Well, that's great.
And it really shows through, Nick. I mean, I've been kind of binge watching his films. I just since I met him at Venture a couple months back, I was just like, who's this dude that's making these films that are just, they're so good. They're not so trendy that I'm just like, wow. But even before we started recording,
John
Nick was
in that
just,
word trendy.
Well, They're not like,
Okay, seriously.
They're so good.
They are so good. And, there's a bunch of like trends that like come in and out of the industry and that kind of stuff that are going to come and go. But I genuinely think that you are onto something with incorporating, home videos and like cell phone footage and all of that stuff, pictures into your videos, that I think that in the next 6 months to 2 years, like, that's going to become the thing that like the speed ramps was, a few years ago or so. Like, I genuinely think that you, I don't know if you're probably not the first one to do it, but you're definitely someone that comes to mind whenever I think of that. And I think that you're going to be like a trendsetter for the next like few years on incorporating stuff like that. So that's just awesome. My wife and I have started doing that now too, because of you. So,
well, I got to give credit where it's due. So a big influence of mine, have you guys heard of Lightfield Lewis? So I stumbled on him like before I started shooting. He was kind of part of who inspired me. Look him up; it'll blow your mind. But he does a lot of like the photos, particularly. And then it was when we were doing our actual own wedding video that we had a bunch of home videos lying around that it kind of was just like, this would be amazing. So that's kind of what stumbled into that. But yeah, I feel like even in the 5 or 6 years that we've done it, like we've started seeing more people starting to incorporate some of the older stuff, and it really just, I think it really lends itself to it with weddings, to just feed so much of the story and everything. We love it.
And I will say, as we're getting going too, is just like the way that you guys present yourself, like on your website, the way it feels when you go, like, and then you turn on these films, it's like you're like taken to a different place, a different time. I don't even know how to really explain it, but like it's so unique and so refreshing that like I'm sure that like and that's why I know that you guys are like blowing up. Like everybody's like, you got to have a little long distance on your podcast. You got to have, because it's like you guys are like legit
That's crazy.
killing it. And so like, kudos to you. I want to talk before we go into all that, just kind of like paint us a picture of what 2019 maybe looks like for you. Like, are you somebody that's wanting to shoot 5-10 weddings a year, a little bit more than that? Why don't you kind of tell us how many you're shooting, your ideal couple, like what that looks like, and then kind of what you're charging.
Yeah, totally. So 2019, for this year, I think we're around like 16 or 17 video only weddings. And then we have a few that are photo as well. And then 2020, it's kind of the same thing. I think like 15 to 17 feels pretty great to us. I do listen to the podcast, so I knew you'd ask about packages and pricing, stuff like that. And to be honest, I feel like that's part of the reason the podcast has done so well, is I feel like people just like the transparency of kind of knowing, kind of how people are rolling and all that. And so I looked back, and just in 2015, our average was around 1,100 per wedding. 2016 was, I think, 2,200 per wedding, and now I think our last like 7 or 8 we've booked has been averaging around 92, and that's including travel. It's crazy. It's just crazy, but I have to thank like all these your guys' resources, and like there's just so much content out there now.
Good.
It's
that makes
crazy.
me so happy because
it's
so worth it, and it's not just like your Uncle Al with a camera. It's like this piece of, it's not even art. I'm not fangirling by any means, but it's just like I watch it and I'm just like, man, that is so just uniquely them. And like, it's not like this perfect, like, it's not like it feels so just real, and it feels like you guys, and when you go to your website, that matches. And when you see the photos of you, that matches. And like that being true to you, it's just it's like just so fresh.
Dude,
yeah.
Nick, thanks, man. Thanks.
Well, I was just going to say, when we had Rick and Sarah Pendergraph on, a couple weeks ago on the podcast, she used the word vulnerable in her wedding
like
films.
that.
And when I watch your stuff, Josh, like that's the vibe that I get, that raw, emotional, vulnerable stuff. And I think that because you're tapping into like that, like that's a big reason why you're able to charge almost $10,000, for a wedding, because you're tapping into something that a lot of us out here maybe are missing, or maybe are overlooking, or just haven't figured out how to do that yet. So that's great. That's awesome to hear that you're doing that. That's amazing.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Yeah, that's just kind of been recent, so it's pretty exciting. But yeah, congrats, to go on that has been, we're doing a 3 package system now. We were for a while doing just one, and kind of it was kind of like we were just doing a highlight for a couple years and I was shooting solo a lot and just was kind of like, man, I don't want to do, doc edits and blah, 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 because I'm an artist and all this stuff. But then basically through some educational resources like yourselves, discovered I was kind of leaving, I think, some services on the table, some money on the table. So yeah, we'd have 3 packages and they all are 2 shooters and they all really focus on the like 5 to 8 minute highlight. Some of them have some additional edits and all that, extra days of coverage and all that as well.
That's awesome. That's great.
I want to ask this. Explain to me what does a little long distance, like what does that even mean? Like where'd you come up with that name?
Good question.
How'd you get that?
Yeah, so
he still doesn't even know.
I'm not sure. We're trying to find it. No, it's kind of a tie-in of Jess and I. When we started dating, she was living in Nepal at the time, and so she was on this trip overseas. Our relationship started long distance, and then when we were kind of like trying to think of a name, it kind of just like kind of rang in our head, and we thought we were really wanting to be like a travel brand at that time too. So they kind of went together, kind of that dual meaning, and then it's just been funny how many couples have connected it and even. Like, I think they like the work at first, and then they read some of our story, and if they had a long distance relationship, they kind of cling on to that too. And you guys know, I mean, I think couples really value like their vendors, like the relationship with them. Maybe not everybody, but I think our couples really like that element of it. So we didn't do that, but that's been cool too.
And that's awesome to hear. A thing that we've preached a lot on our podcast is the importance of your About Me page and being transparent on your website. And I can't tell you how many couples have like read the stuff that I put about me and like, man, Nick, you did this. Now I want to work with you because they learned these things about you. And it's, just a way to help you find the couples that you want to work with. So that's great.
Yeah, no, totally.
Yeah. So, okay.
So, podcast is over.
Okay. Good job. For those of you that are listening, like, share, subscribe, and until next time, just kidding. It's a 7-minute podcast.
You now know the meaning behind the name. That's it.
Yeah, so good. So good. So we have a lot of things. Oh, God.
Blake, leave this all.
No way, this is going in. That's so funny.
Boy.
Nick, talk to him about the finding his voice. Talk to him about that.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to do. So, one thing that's really, interesting and unique about your videos and your brand and stuff, I think, is the voice that you have. So, why don't you just kind of talk to listeners through, how you found that and how you figured out, your voice in this industry and putting the stuff together that you are able to do.
Yeah, definitely. I guess I see a lot of particularly in Facebook groups, and there's all these great resources and forums, but it kind of also sometimes feels like a lot of us are trying to copy each other, and it just ends up being like not satisfying for the creator either. So I didn't really do this intentionally, but I found over time that I had some pretty strong influences early on within weddings and outside of weddings that were just things that I feel like kind of knowing what inspires you in life, and like just driving to try to figure out how to replicate that feeling through a wedding. And I just feel like we kind of have let go of some of the things like that you have to do wedding films a certain way, like use a certain gear. And I like to give the example of just like, I've never used a gimbal and don't know how to, and they're kind of popular in the last couple years, and I literally don't even know how to balance one. Like I would probably break it. So, but for me, it's like, and there's been times I've been tempted to feel, because I'm just like, everybody uses them, or everybody like uses drones all the time. So like, do I have to do that to stay relevant? And you kind of find that things that become trendy and become popular, like there's always like somebody out there kind of looking for something that's not the norm or not, what everyone else is doing. So we try to just stick to, what inspires us, where do we find meaning in life, and try to translate that into our films. Even something as simple as like, I just prefer the look of our films to be like pretty raw and I know, again, I think the Pendergraphs were saying too, that's kind of an overused word, but we do try to, I don't know, I just like things that are not clean, because, life isn't clean and pretty all the time. And
that's so good.
Just like things to not be too
drawn in
perfect.
I'm being sold right now, Nick, by him. I'm just like, I want you to film my wedding, but I
already did that thing. Yeah. Done that
14 years ago. I could have found you, but anyway, but I really don't feel super strongly that there's one right way to do it. But for us, it's like, okay,
there probably was a fork in the road a few years ago where I felt like I need to figure out how to be like a real videographer and like study up on this gear and like be a really dialed shooter and all this stuff that I was kind of insecure about. And it's just been really freeing, like letting that go and being like, these are the things I resonate with, and really leaning into that. And then you just find that, there's always, you're going to end up in a niche market of something like with some small group of people, which is kind of the best place to end up.
So walk us through kind of what you bring to a wedding. Like, I mean, what's your approach when it comes to gear? Kind of geek out on like, what do you bring into a wedding? How are you shooting during the day?
Yeah. So, I mean, I feel like more and more I'm hearing that a lot of these top videographers out there are going with pretty simple approaches. And I would say that's kind of what I'm striving for as well. So, the last couple of years, it's been just a body and a lens, and that's pretty much it. So I'm like on a, 24 to 70, or I got this new Tamron now. Just on that, I don't change the lens at all during the day. For a while at the beginning, I was like, switching lenses in and out all the time. And like I said, I think as I found more and more like the things that I like, which is capturing particularly those like fleeting moments of a wedding day. Like, for example, right after the ceremony's done and everyone is kind of hugging, like that big celebratory moment after, like that moment happens so fast that I'm like, there's no way I can capture this and like frame it up and expose it all well if I have like anything else except being handheld. So yeah, I'm just using that and like probably looking through the eyepiece, I don't know, 60 to 70% of the time, and using that to help stabilize things too. So yeah, just that. And then when we have second shooters now, I kind of just tell them like to really focus on like the doc stuff for me, so I can be free to just focus on the moments. And but I mean, it's like, pretty simple.
That's mind blowing that you're just on one body and lens.
It's so fun. I mean, it's so freeing, and it's something else that I think I felt for a while. Like, is this too, like, should I have more? I thought us video people are supposed to have tons of gear and all that. But I love just being able to move around easily and
I just see it in our Facebook group a lot. Shameless plug, Facebook group, search how to film weddings. But
wait, you guys have a Facebook group?
Yeah, man, it's pretty sick.
We actually
There's
do.
Dozens of
weddings Facebook group. Okay.
Yeah, just go to Facebook, search how to film weddings. We'll add you. Just answer a couple questions. But there's a lot of, like, I saw a post in there, I think yesterday. Somebody was like, hey, I need advice. Gonna do my first wedding. What gimbal should I have?
Yeah.
And a lot of people are like, you should have none gimbals on your first wedding. Like, you shouldn't have that. You should have
none gimbals.
None
gimbals.
So it's just one of those deals where I think that we see this work and we think, oh, we need to go buy stuff to do it, instead of focusing in on, like, I mean, the basics, and the more people that we talk to, like you said, the more are like, yeah, I use, I have 2 camera bodies, a few lenses, and I just keep it pretty minimal. And it's like, oh, it's like, that's refreshing to know that. And so, like, I think that the listeners, if you're new and you're just getting going, first of all, check out A Little Long Distance, watch what he's doing, and then realizing that's with one camera body and one lens. Mind blowing for sure.
Yeah, totally. I just have found a lot of people seem to kind of don't ever get over that hump of feeling like I have to have and understand all this gear. And so I like to free people to be like, some people love that stuff, but if you don't, just don't, figure out what's for you. So
yeah. That's really
so good.
Yeah.
So good. How do you go about, your relationship with your clients? Because obviously the type of videos that you are putting together are, different than the traditional wedding video,
Yeah.
So how's your relationship with your clients so that, you're getting them to trust you so that you can do something, kind of outside of the box with maybe what, 90% of the industry is doing?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we take the client relationship super seriously. I feel like we try to invest more time there than updating our camera gear and focus on some of that stuff. And we found that it seems to pay dividends of, having that client relationship, not only with obviously future work and referrals and stuff, but just to be able to give us that freedom and that trust once the wedding day finally comes around. So yeah, I mean, we do, we'll do a video chat, a few months out before. This is after booking. I'm assuming we're talking about that. A few months before, we'll do a video chat, and it's just like only about getting to know them, and we don't even talk about the selfie. We don't even talk about the wedding day. So I think even just that start, kind of laying the groundwork of hey, we're not even going to jump into the wedding day. I just want to get to know you guys. I think it already is painting a picture for them, like, oh, this is like, this is more than just like a job. So we, again, that's 90% of that's just listening to their story, getting to know them. And I always like to say on that one about, hey, like, just so you guys know, like, on the wedding day, like, I want to feel like a friend going into it. And the part that seems to kind of build some trust is when I tell them, like, I totally get how awkward it is to be on camera. Like, I'm okay shooting people, but I hate having the camera on myself. And I just feel like whenever I do that, like, they kind of both take a sigh of relief. I mean, and it's kind of like, oh, like, he gets it. And so I feel like that's some of the building the trust and kind of breaking down the mystery of, like, this artist video guy that I feel like some people get hung up on feeling like we're these, like, I don't know, unapproachable, like, hipster, weird people. But I'm like, just break it down. I'm just a dude. I just happen to have a camera and, I'm going to just be there as a friend to celebrate. So, just between that and then, maybe another call, like, leading up, it's really nothing too crazy, but just kind of saying those things.
Yeah. I think that's so huge, because what happens a lot whenever, we make these connections is, we have the things that we want to say, and we have, the stuff that we want to go over. And everyone that I've talked to that is able to tell these amazing wedding stories, on the wedding day, create these emotional films, is they are deeply listening and intently listening to what it is that their clients have to say. Because I'm sure whenever you're meeting with them and getting to know them, and they mention, like, oh yeah, I had this horse when I was a little kid, and I would ride the horse all the, whatever it may be, and you're like, okay, horse riding is important to them. And then you're like, hey, do you have any home videos of that? Can I put some of that if that's really important to you, like that kind of stuff. So we can't stress, everyone wants to know, how do you sell to your clients and how do you get to know them? And listening to what they have to say is such a big deal to be able to move into that realm of being a better, salesperson, being a better storyteller, is hearing what it is that your clients have to say.
Yeah, I completely agree, man. Totally. Yeah, we've found that to be, I mean, it's funny. It's like, we're, booking like decently sized weddings now and all this stuff. And I don't feel like I'm any much more of a salesman than I was when we started. I'm like, I still don't really know how to make a sell. I just like to listen to people's stories, and people want to feel heard and understood. So it's, I think that's I think that, I don't know. I just feel like there's a trend to focus on some of the wrong things as the wedding videographer when, focusing on stuff like, client relationship and, just being a better, like, relational person is probably going to benefit you more usually.
Oh yeah. Yeah. So much.
100%.
So much. Yeah.
So on these wedding days and the films, for the people that haven't listened or seen your films, you do incorporate a lot of footage that might not just be your typical footage on a wedding day. So why don't you talk a little bit about, like, your approach to other footage? Like, are you thinking about this as you're going in? But just kind of what is your process for getting outside of the box of, like, maybe 8 hours on a wedding day? How are you doing this? Give us the inside scoop.
Yeah. I mean, it started, when we were kind of getting going a few years ago of, I can't remember where the inspiration came from, but it was a friend of mine who I was shooting their wedding. And, we just, asked if the day before we could do a little short shoot with them, everyone kind of calls it something different. We call it the narrative shoot, just to be able to, it's kind of like the engagement shoot, but for video. So we love doing those outside of it. And I always kind of paint it as like, we want to, your wedding day is just the one day of your relationship. Like, there was so much leading up to it, that was all part of your story. So we started incorporating some of that stuff early on, and you know how it is. Just once you put something like that out there, kind of somebody sees it and resonates and wants to, something like that for themselves. So we, not every couple does the home videos. Not every couple does, like, it's kind of the two parts of it are either home video, like old home video, like VHS tape stuff that we have them send in and we can convert, or like stuff off their iPhones and digital stuff already. So it seems like every couple kind of favors like one or the other, or none. Some don't want any and just kind of want the wedding day focus. So, and it's all kind of fine by us. And the packages are kind of tailored to what they might be looking for. But I mean, it's really just, if it's digital, like, it's just a Dropbox upload. But then we also tell them if they have tapes and they're going to do the home video, they can just we can kind of convert any of those tapes from the 80s and 90s. So they just send them in. And I mean, I've spent a ungodly amount of hours converting people's home videos because I just love it. I mean, we do actually offer a service now to like digitalize them for them, but yeah, I don't know. The big words.
So I get digitalizing them. I think it's digitizing, but whatever. It's
digitize.
Cool.
All right, cool.
I like
digitalizing. Yeah,
digitalize.
So I guess it's like going into the wedding. Do you know, like when you're getting these stories and like they're talking about horseback riding, and then I'm seeing a shot of like daughter, with her dad on a horse from like 1991 or something. Like, are you going into the wedding day knowing all of these facts about them, or are you kind of asking them the questions on the wedding day and then going back after and saying, hey, do you have footage of this, or how are you going about doing that?
Yeah, for sure. I would say more times than not, I don't know, even going into the wedding day. And sometimes it's kind of the beauty of digging up some of these tapes after the fact is sometimes I can feel inspired to take a video a certain direction just based on some little gem I find from the home video that I look at it and I'm like, oh, that, clearly this relationship was like, and then you see all the parallels and maybe I'll not feel inspired one way or another and then see this, clip of a father and a daughter from when, she's 5 years old and feel like, whoa, and you can match this with something from the wedding day. And to me, I'm just like, I get the chills every time I do it. And, I'm just, like people like have said things like, that must be so boring, like converting people's like home videos. And I'm like, actually, I actually love it. I actually cry like most of the time when I'm doing it. And then you start like putting it with stuff on the wedding day. And it's like, you guys have kids, it's
like
crazy.
It's like a magical thing that you're like, this 1080 or 4K footage, whatever it is, in all this technology that we have. But like getting back to more than just the wedding day and digging into that story. I mean, it sets you apart so much from everyone else.
So much.
Yeah.
It's silly.
Yeah. I mean, it's like, that's part to go back to earlier, just about finding your voice. I mean, that was like kind of where some of it clicked for me. Was like, I realized how much I love nostalgia and home videos and all that stuff. And I realized like when you look back and you watch either your own home tapes or somebody else's, like then the things that bring a smile to people's face or the things that people are connecting with generally are not related to the composition or color or all these things. It's generally about the moment or the people in it. And so I guess I started, it kind of something clicked in my head of like, particularly with wedding videos, that it's like, oh man, like maybe that's how, maybe that's the average person is looking at these too, is it's more about the actual content in them.
Because like what we were talking about too with the Penn Weddings crew, Rick and Sarah, a couple weeks back, like the things that are going to make your videos really stand out are the connections to the people and the faces, as opposed to like, and we've said it before, it's like if you could take a mannequin and replace the bride and groom with mannequins and you wouldn't tell a difference in the film, you're doing something potentially that's not great for your couple. And so like just looking for those stories and looking for those ways to connect those dots. And I mean, man, it just like watching, as we're getting ready for this over the last week or so, just like diving into your style and everything, like I've just been challenged to be like, man, I really want to get out of, I don't want to do what you guys are doing, but I just want to like do what I should be doing. And that's what I would say for people is like, everybody shouldn't just be like, hey, let's go get some home videos and, like do this just like, a little long distance or whatever. But like being inspired by somebody is great. It's like you can be inspired by Josh and say, oh, I want to do this though. And like, I'm going to pull this in from this way. And then that's what lifts the industry to being like people looking at our industry and saying, yeah, I'll pay $9,200 for a video. Look what he did. Like, this is the most important thing to me, as opposed to being like, yeah, everybody does drones now, or everybody. And so like just constantly looking at what you're doing and why you're doing it and saying, am I doing this because everybody else is doing it? Or am I doing this because creatively down in my gut, I know that this is what I should be. Like, this is what I want to be pushing to. And I've had that battle lately where it's just like, man, I just want to get out of, I don't care what everybody else is doing. I just want to create something so unique for the couple. And that has gotten me some of my biggest bookings to date, and it's so anyway, I rant over.
I totally agree. Cause I feel like, again, like people feel like a wedding video has to be a certain thing. And even for the creators, like, I just feel like there's probably limitless options of people finding themselves a niche market because people are so unique. And if they just leaned into that stuff, I totally agree.
So tell me, what CRM do you use? If you're not sure or you don't know what a CRM is, I'm about to save you a lot of time and therefore money. CRM stands for Customer Relationship Management. Basically, a CRM is an online service that helps you better serve your clients. HoneyBook is both mine and John's CRM of choice. We absolutely love it. HoneyBook allows us to do all of our correspondence, contracts, and payments all in one place. One of the features that I love is the automated workflow. We all have emails that we send out to all of our clients, right? At 6 months, 3 months, 1 month, the week of. All of us do it. Automated workflows make it so that those emails can go out automatically. Since I don't have to take time to, 1, remember to send them out, and 2, to write them, I save time and make more money by working more efficiently. Are you interested in saving time on the business side of things? Go to howtofilmweddings.com/honeybook for a free 1-week trial. Also, because the Honeybooks really like me and John, we can give you $200 off of your first year, and that also comes with a 60-day money-back guarantee. So what are you waiting for? Go to howtofilmweddings.com/honeybook to start saving lots of time in your business. Oh yeah, legally I have to tell you that John and I are affiliates of HoneyBook. And we're back. So why don't you talk a minute about, creating work that really inspires you? I know that a lot of us get in this rut, or I do, time and time again, where I'm just like, okay, I finished another video, on to the next one. And, but staying inspired and trying to create stuff and make stuff new and different and fresh. So what do you do that it helps you, stay inspired to create these awesome videos?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I'm same as the next guy. It's I think as artists, if you're trying to continue growing in your art, the bar continually gets higher and higher, and it gets more and more disappointing when you don't hit it and harder to kind of reach. So I've definitely been relating to that as well. And for me, I feel the biggest encouragement I have to people is finding inspiration outside of the wedding world. And, I have a couple filmmakers just, on Vimeo and such that I like to watch, and kind of like you guys were saying, you don't copy somebody, but especially if they're in a different kind of genre format, you can really pull in a lot of that and then translate it in through your voice kind of into a wedding. So I think the biggest thing that kind of gets me hung up and gets me feeling down is, looking at just other wedding video stuff too. I mean, there's just so much remarkable work out there. And even if you feel like in your head, maybe like, oh, I've kind of, got a groove going and I know kind of my style, you can watch something of what somebody else is doing and just feel like, man, I want to completely do something different, or my stuff sucks or whatever. So I feel like that's been what's kept us going, and kind of remembering, I literally, there's a few films that I'll, again, these guys that make some short films that I'll go back and, even 5-7 years after I've seen them, like they still pull at my heart in a pretty strong way. And so I'll kind of go back and just wonder, what was it that made me feel that way, or be inspired? And so I don't know. I feel like watching films from time to time outside of it, and then breaking down, like, why did this make me feel this way? That's been really helpful for us. And then being able to, understand even like how they put it together, or how they paced it, or the shots and all that, like what it did or what led up to it to make your, heart really be inspired in a certain way. So that's kind of the drawing board I have to go back to sometimes, is just step out of that wedding world and do some of that. And you guys know, we've heard it on here too, of just being able to take a break and get some fresh air. I think forcing it has been something that even to this day I'm still trying to figure out, when to just let it go and come back tomorrow. And you can feel, I think the further you push into it on a day, you end up feeling like you're just gonna never be able to make a good wedding film again. So I'd probably better just stop.
Yeah, John always tells me when I'm like, oh, I'm really frustrated with this edit. He's like, start culling another project. Start just, do it. Just get yourself away from it for the rest of the day. Work on something else, and taking some time and coming back to it can really, really be helpful. But also, I think that, I don't know why, like, watching stuff not in the wedding world was something that like didn't dawn on me for the longest time that I could do. Like I
yeah.
mean, you know, it's not a major motion picture or anything, but I can get a lot of inspiration by watching, you know, Hollywood movies or by watching other people. Like you can learn stuff and see how they're shooting and try to incorporate maybe some of those ideas, and you can draw inspiration from anything. So if you're, you know, in a rut or you're stuck with something, like take a break or watch somebody else's stuff that's in a totally different genre to maybe trigger your creativity a little bit.
Yeah, I completely agree, man. And I'll watch I feel like there's like super talented like rap video editors out there, and I'll like watch some of those and I'll be like, these editors are insane, and I'll try to like, no one's doing that in the wedding world, so try to like channel some of that. It's just fun.
that's yeah. I mean, in some of your films, I feel like, man, I can see how that's coming through. I mean, I need to watch more rap videos, Nick.
Let's do it.
That's the biggest takeaway from this.
Watch more rap videos. I don't even know where to watch them. I'm so old.
Episode 40, whatever. With Josh from A Little Long Distance. Watch rap videos.
That's right.
That's the name of the episode.
That's it.
So we talked about, you know, your inspiration outside of weddings with rap videos. It's super cool.
Yes.
So, I mean, you've alluded it and talked to it a little bit, you know, kind of about finding your niche and, you know, that stuff. Is there anything else you want to add, you know, about, you know, finding your niche market and, you know, just not copying everybody else, or have you kind of said?
Yeah, I mean,
what you're gonna say?
I guess some of it too is like another big thing we probably see is, I think it's coupled with like not only leaning into your artistic form and your voice, but like just having that confidence to actually be a running business and like be able to charge people money. And I feel like I even just saw in the group like this morning or yesterday, somebody was just like, you know, I sent a quote for a very low amount and then like immediately like told them I'd do even for less or for free or like, you know, that seems to just be the biggest hurdle. And again, I just feel like being able to hear of other people that have gone before me and, you know, said that, hey, it's okay to do this or charge this. Yeah, I would just say like falling into having a unique product that you offer coupled with, you know, your brand coming off as legit and professional and like, and all that. I think it's, you know, once you kind of put in the work for both of those, at least us, we've kind of wound up in a niche market, it seems. That's pretty awesome. We just get to work with a lot of really great couples, and it's not much like back and forth. We don't really ever deal anymore with people saying they're, you know, price shopping or looking at other vendors. It's kind of like, you know, you're what we want to go with. So that's been wonderful.
Yeah. Whenever you have that niche and you're so specific in what you do, when people find it, it's like, I want it and I don't care. I want it. That's what I like. I'm willing to cut everything now that I've seen it, you know?
Totally.
And so if you're not creating work or striving to create work that makes a bride and groom think that, you know, like I would challenge the listeners to like, what can you do to maybe not this wedding season or the next, but to be to a point where brides are coming to you, grooms are coming to you saying, I don't care what it costs. I have to have you. When are you available? So,
right.
I want to jump over to, we've mentioned it already, but we do have a Facebook group. Just
we
search
do.
How to Film Weddings on Facebook.
It's still
we're pretty
around.
much
It's still
everywhere. Yeah, it's still around. It's probably added a few followers just since we've mentioned it at the beginning in this episode. But we posted a question in there. We put your pretty face, your photo up, and just said, hey, does anybody have any questions? We got a lot of love from people. Jay Worsley said, I love Josh, so thanks, Jay. Matt Johnson said, I love him more. It became kind of like this battle.
Jay and Matt fighting over me.
It's weird.
Could have never imagined my life.
So I guess it's really, you know, that's just more love from some of the people in the community. I found a question from Lance Bullock that I think is really great. He's got a few questions, and I want to like kind of ask each one of them because I think they're really good. The first one that he says here is just, what are a few tips for solo shooters? Like what are the 3 most important tips, you know, something along that line for solo shooters? What would you recommend for the solo shooters out there?
Yeah, for sure. When I was solo shooting, I think the biggest thing that helped me is some people can do this, but I think most probably can't do it well, of realizing like what you can offer only being a solo shooter. I think some people get really held up with feeling like, you know, I got to successfully do all these doc edits and stuff too. And I mean, some people can, but for me, it was just like we were only focusing on the highlight stuff, and we literally wouldn't even set tripods up during the ceremony. And in hindsight, I'm kind of like, man, maybe that would have been nice to bring a second shooter along and be able to offer that afterwards and all that. But if you're gonna solo shoot though, like, being able to know your limitations and know kind of what you're offering can really help. Yeah, and so we just found a lot of freedom in being like, we're only gonna focus on the highlight film and just those moments, and not trying to do it all. I think it's really tough for one person to carry around all that gear and kind of do all that.
Yeah,
love it.
That's really good.
So any other for solo shooters, any other things like just that come to mind, like top besides that one? He asked for 3. I said 3, but I think 1 is good because I've got a couple other questions from him.
Okay, we can carry on.
You can comment there. Okay, the next thing he asked, which I think is really really good, is there anything specific to getting so much emotion out of the couples? I know we kind of touched on it, but like when you're going into a wedding, what are you thinking? Like, how are you getting the emotion?
Yeah, for sure. I think for me, it's been, again, obviously not every wedding will have that, but oftentimes it will, maybe not with the bride and groom, maybe with other people. I think it's been a combination of, I think videographers, it's easy for us to kind of get locked into just our gear and our scopes and our little things on our screen and all this stuff. We're in this little world and we kind of forget everything that's going on around us. And again, that's why I love shooting handheld, is like, I am probably looking at people more than I am at my gear. I'm like trying to figure out where these moments are happening. And then I always like to think of it as like, you got to be thinking 5 seconds ahead with the wedding, like you're going to miss the moment if you're just reactionary to seeing it. So over time of just doing it for a while now, it's like, okay, I know like when the bride walks down at this certain moment, like I'm going to start looking at her parents now or his parents, because like, this parent might have a reaction and all those things. So I think it's a combination of being aware of it, but then also like being okay taking kind of like the risk or the bit of like that bit of courage to kind of get in somebody's personal space. I think it's pretty uncomfortable for most people. And, I've just kind of felt this weight of like a mission of like, if they're hiring me as a videographer, they've hired me to, capture as many of these as possible. And even if I have to make that uncomfortable step of, when somebody knows you're filming them and it's uncomfortable and you want to point the camera away, but if you can just hang in there and be brave for like 5 seconds, then you can get a lot of those moments. And I'll get really close to people, and try to be unobtrusive, but I guess what overrides that for me is feeling like, the couple will be grateful for this and grateful that I was willing to kind of, you step into it. So,
yeah, I like it. I like that.
And
that's good.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah,
hey,
that's
thank
good.
You.
And then you also have going for you that you've had a lot of emotional couples.
Yeah.
And so now you're showing a lot of emotional videos. So now people that watch them, if they are emotional, they're like, okay, this is what I want, so there's it's that thing too of showing the stuff that you want to shoot kind of as well. So
yeah, I've thought about that lately too,
helps.
of like a lot of people talk about that related to like destination weddings or to location, but I feel like that's been the same in our case too, of just early on, we just got lucky to work with a lot of people that were willing to show their emotions, and it's attracted the same kind of thing. So I mean, I would say that same thing that people give with that advice of like, if you don't put stoic like weddings on your site if you don't, if you have a couple or two, that you only need a couple, but if they're like those sort of people do see that stuff and connect with it.
Yeah, sure.
The last little bit of his question I'm going to combine with Scott Latham. He had a question. It's around like the editing and music selection, basically, just like how you're going about your editing, because your edits are pretty sick. I don't know if you know this. They're pretty sick.
Well, thank you.
They need to go to the doctor. They sick. Oh man, I'm such a dad.
Boo.
Okay, so basically, don't boo me. Okay, so he's just basically saying like, are you approaching bands, I like labels, music producers, like just the whole background of like how you're getting some of these songs. And then Lance's last part of his question was just kind of give us all the editing tips kind of questions. So
all of them, every single one.
Just teach us how to edit everything in about like 2 minutes. 2 minutes.
Got this. So yeah, with music, we have had a lot of luck with reaching out to artists and labels. So really what that process has been like, and it's really been a wonderful little secret of the wedding video world in particular, I think, because there's a lot of musicians out there that are okay with having their music used in these videos that aren't on MusicBed and some of the more popular sites. So yeah, I mean, our process is generally using Spotify a lot to find the music itself, and then if it is a song we want to use, we'll reach out directly to the band, and it kind of just depends. Yeah, it depends on how big the band is, if they're on a label or not. I'm often having to like look on Wikipedia to figure out what label they're on, and then like Google search like the email contact. It's generally, they make it kind of tricky to figure out how to get in contact with like their licensing department or their management. So it usually takes some digging and trying like multiple avenues, or like Facebook and Instagram, and just basically digging to try to find one email from the label. And so I'd say like, we probably only like 25% of the time actually hear back when we do it. I'll follow up. That increases the chances. I'll follow up 2 or 3 times. And I just keep them as short and concise. I mean, you have to know these people are super busy and it's not really worth their time to reply to you. So I totally understand that. And yeah, I mean, I'm basically just asking like, hey, I'm a wedding filmmaker and the song would be super rad in this video. Like, can I either do a one-time license for it, or can I like use it with permission? And yeah, some like really big bands have been just like, yeah, it's totally cool, go for it. And some not as big bands are like, yeah, $5,000. I'm like, okay, bye. So it's kind of a super wide range. But for me, it's worth the time because music can be such a differentiator of your work. So yeah, we spend a lot of time just finding music. Got a bunch of Spotify playlists that we've just added stuff to over time, and we do use MusicBed and Soundstripe some, but I love being able to find, because then you do every once in a while find artists that are like, they're like really amped on you, like showcasing their music too. So it's a win-win, I think.
Yeah, that's amazing.
That's great. And then on the editing side, the way you're putting it together, like there's a little bit more of your approach on like how you're inspired, what you're thinking when you're editing. You don't have to go into like, we'd have to do an entirely new episode, but give us some things
First
for people that
import.
are maybe. Yeah, great, good. This is good.
This is a good start.
Just like a little insight for people that are interested, for sure.
Yeah, I'd say the general gist is like, I like to really spend a decent amount of time in that beginning process of sorting the footage and finding the selects and playing music in the background during it seems to be an important part of the process to be able to. Obviously I'm putting together some of the doc stuff at first, but then once I start looking for the selects and going through that and having music, generally the direction takes off once I find something, and it could be really any part of the day or any emotion or anything, but something that I feel like is pointing to kind of something bigger in life, kind of symbolically maybe means something bigger in life. And so usually it's just like the shot, like one shot and almost every film I could go through and be like, this was the shot and this was like the song I happened to play and it made me feel a certain way, and kind of running with it. And so I like to focus on, kind of where the focus with the end in mind first. So I try to kind of think about what the climax is going to be, like kind of where do I want to take this film, and then work backwards from there. So it's kind of like the puzzle piecing around it from there. So I don't know. I don't really know, like I from what I understand, like a lot of the process, or there's some videographers I guess do like lay audio down first to the music, and so like maybe sometimes we do that, but I think we look at the visual even more, which is just again like our approach. I don't think one's right or wrong, but and then we kind of take it from there.
I like it.
Yeah, that's great, and I think that's a good tidbit of saying, hey, you don't have to build your video beginning to end. Like I think so many of us, that's where we get stuck. And that's my biggest thing. If someone's just kind of stuck with it, like start at the end and go backwards, start at the climax of the song and work from there. I think that's a great tidbit of advice. So
I would say too, I could go off about editing because I'm passionate about it. And I think you have to really focus on like, just every single frame can make a difference. And I just think my encouragement would be to be very like meticulous about like watching things back and like trying out 1 or 2 frames, less or more. And just those little things can affect the viewer's emotion. you know, and you got to pay attention to that stuff. And I would also say one other thing is having a trusted resource that you can get feedback from has been just, and Jess is that for me. I'm really lucky in that she has amazing taste and an amazing, she can just give me like really, really great feedback. I used to shy from it at first because it hurt my feelings, but now I'm just
Same.
like, please bring it on. Because it's like, you know, if I was just, I've just taken some videos in just the stupidest directions, and then she's able to kind of hone it in and be like, you know, this isn't connecting at all. Like, you know, I'm just focused more on the editing of being flashy or being like really like whatever. And, you know, it's all about a feeling and the couple's like view of it too. So bringing somebody in to give feedback to, I think is super important.
Yeah, that is huge. That is huge. Great advice. Thank you. Thank you for that. So we are wrapped up on time. We're about done here. So Josh, why don't you just kind of share where people can find you on, you know, the interwebs or whatever if they're not following you yet?
Yeah, for sure. So our website's alittlelongdistance.com. Our Instagram's @alittlelongdistance. Our email is hello@alittlelongdistance. You guessed it. I think we have a Facebook /alittlelongdistance probably.
Probably.
Vimeo /alittlelongdistance.
YouTube
/alittlelongdistance kinda. We're like kinda started that. I need you guys to teach me about YouTube.
You'll need to listen to the episodes that we're about to drop.
Oh, good.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah,
I
sure.
need to learn. Yeah. We kind of have, don't follow our YouTube. Don't do it.
Speaking of YouTube, like that segue, John and I have a YouTube channel, youtube.com/howtofilmweddings. There you go. Ooh. Anyways, if you're watching this on YouTube, be sure to subscribe to our channel, share this with people that might like it. If you're listening to it on a podcatcher, rate and review us, share us with someone that you know will like this. Look for us on Facebook. Just search for the group How to Film Weddings. Josh, thank you so much for joining us. And until next time, we will see you.
Thanks,
See
guys.
ya.